You think you know the story of the fisherman and his wife. A simple fisherman, a greedy wife, a magical fish that grants wishes, and the inevitable downfall caused by unchecked desire. A moral fable for children, teaching that greed leads to ruin. That is the version most people remember. But what if I told you this story was never just about greed? What if behind its moral lesson hides an older mystery, one that reaches back into forgotten centuries? Buried beneath the surface of this familiar tale lies a thread that weaves through medieval manuscripts, coastal superstitions, and even the sacred rituals of ancient civilizations. Archaeologists have traced echoes of this fisherman's bargain across continents and eras, hinting at a myth far older than the fairy tale we tell today. The fisherman and his wife may not simply be a story about human weakness. It may be an encrypted message from the past, a relic of forgotten myth, and perhaps even a warning. Once upon a time, on the edge of the sea, there lived a poor fisherman and his wife. Their hut was little more than a shack, built of reeds and patched wood, standing in a hollow near the shore. Every day, the fisherman went out with his rod and line, catching what little he could to feed them. One morning he cast his net and drew up a marvelous catch, a great fish glimmering with strange light. To his astonishment, the fish spoke. It pleaded for its life, revealing itself to be no ordinary creature but an enchanted prince under a spell. Out of pity, the fisherman released it back into the water. When he returned home and told his wife, she scolded him bitterly. "Why did you not ask for a wish? Such a fish could have given us a better life." Reluctantly, the fisherman returned to the shore, called to the fish, and asked for a small cottage instead of their miserable hut. The fish granted it, but the wife's hunger for more grew insatiable. Soon she demanded a grand house, then a palace, then the power of a queen. Each time the fisherman begged the fish, and each time the wish was granted. Yet the wife was never content. She demanded to become empress, then pope, until at last she cried out to rule over the very heavens, to command the sun and moon. The sea roared, the winds howled, and the fish gave its final judgment. When the fisherman returned home, he found his wife once more in their old hovel, and there they lived in misery until the end of their days. That is the story as most of us know it. The greedy wife, the patient husband, and the lesson that greed destroys all blessings. Yet the tale of the fisherman and his insatiable wife has not always sounded the same. The earliest written version is traced back to the Low German folk tales recorded in the early 16th century. These were not gentle bedtime stories, but sharp satires. The greedy wife embodied the dangers of pride, while the husband's passivity mocked the weakness of men who allowed themselves to be dominated. In the 19th century, the brothers Grimm immortalized the story in their collection of fairy tales. Their version softened some of the biting satire and reshaped it as a moral lesson for children. Greed, they warned, would destroy harmony, while humility preserved it. The fisherman became a symbol of simplicity, and his wife an exaggerated warning of what unchecked desire could do. Across Europe, the story shifted in tone and detail. In Russian versions, the magical benefactor was not a fish but a golden pike, revered in Slavic folklore as a mystical water guardian. In Scandinavian retellings, the fish echoed the shape of a sea serpent, a nod to Norse myth. In some Baltic versions, the wife's final demand was not to rule heaven but to command death itself. Each retelling reflected the fears and values of the society that preserved it. Where the church's power loomed large, the tale mocked the pope. Where kings were absolute, the wife demanded to be monarch of all. In maritime cultures, the magical fish embodied the untamed sea, an unpredictable force that gave life and destroyed it in equal measure. Thus, the tale has been more than just a children's story. It has been a mirror to society's anxieties, reshaped and retold to carry moral, political, and spiritual lessons. If we look deeper, the tale begins to resonate with echoes from much older myths. The motif of the talking fish is not unique to European folklore. In ancient Mesopotamian tradition, the god Oannes emerged from the sea in the form of a fish to bestow wisdom upon humanity. To release or to catch such a being was never a simple act of fishing, but a brush with divine knowledge. In Hindu mythology, the god Vishnu appeared as Matsya, the great fish, saving humanity from a flood. Here too, the fish represented cosmic power and salvation, tied to the cycles of destruction and renewal. The insatiable wife resembles figures from classical myth: Pandora, whose curiosity unleashed all suffering upon the world, or Niobe, whose pride and desire for recognition led to her downfall. Like them, the wife in the fisherman's tale becomes an embodiment of human arrogance when confronted with divine gifts. The sea itself, swelling with storm and calm, mirrors the primordial waters found in creation myths worldwide. In many traditions, the ocean is not just a setting but a living force, a boundary between human life and divine power. Each wish granted by the fish is drawn from these waters, each demand threatening to unbalance the order of the world. Could it be that the fisherman is more than a humble peasant? Perhaps he is a stand-in for the seeker, the mortal who encounters the sacred. The fish is the divine benefactor, and the wife represents unchecked human desire, a disruptive force that pushes against the cosmic order. Through this lens, the tale ceases to be a mere moral fable. It becomes an allegory of humanity's ancient struggle, the balance between gratitude and greed, between reverence and hubris, between the gifts of the divine and the dangers of demanding more than the world can bear. In the 20th century, archaeologists and folklorists began to notice something extraordinary. Variants of the fisherman's tale were not confined to Germany or northern Europe. Instead, the same story pattern appeared across vast distances and cultures. In 1928, Russian ethnographers documented oral versions along the Volga River, where the fisherman's magical helper was a golden pike. By the 1950s, scholars uncovered similar motifs in Lithuania, Poland, and Finland. Even further afield, in Korea and Japan, fishermen were said to catch talking fish or turtles that offered blessings when released. In each case, a human petitioned the creature again and again, until the balance of the natural world snapped. One of the most startling discoveries came from Mesopotamian tablets dating back over 2,500 years. On these clay fragments, now preserved in museums in London and Berlin, appear references to supplicants demanding favors from a god of the waters. Each request grows greater, until the god withdraws his blessings and restores the petitioner to their original poverty. The resemblance is uncanny. By the 1980s, comparative folklorists had catalogued over 100 versions of the fisherman's tale across Eurasia. All followed the same core structure. A humble person encounters a magical water being, receives blessings, but loses everything when greed goes too far. Some experts now believe that this narrative may have originated in maritime trading communities over 3,000 years ago. The fishermen and seafarers of the Bronze Age, who depended on the sea for both wealth and survival, likely told cautionary stories about the dangers of demanding too much from the waters. These tales, carried along trade routes, gradually evolved into the versions we know today. Thus, what we dismiss as a simple fairy tale may in fact be a cultural fossil, a remnant of ancient maritime religion, whispered from coast to coast until it hardened into folklore. When examined symbolically, the story of the fisherman and his wife becomes less about human greed and more about cosmic order. Every element carries meaning. The magical fish is not simply a talking animal. Across cultures, the fish has symbolized life, fertility, and divine wisdom. In Christianity, the fish became a secret emblem of Christ. In pagan traditions, it was linked to the womb of the sea, the source of all life. To catch such a fish is to grasp divine knowledge. To release it is to show reverence. To exploit it, however, is to invite ruin. The sea, restless and unpredictable, represents the boundary between the human and the divine. Each time the fisherman approaches the waves to ask for more, he trespasses further across that boundary. The storm that grows with each request is the universe itself rebelling against imbalance. The wife, too, is more than a caricature of greed. She is the archetype of unchecked human desire, the voice that whispers to rulers and empires alike that power is never enough. She echoes the myth of Icarus flying too close to the sun, or of kings who claimed divinity and were struck down. In this sense, her fall is not personal but symbolic. She embodies humanity's arrogance against the divine order. Even the humble fisherman has his role. He is not merely a passive man but a stand-in for all mortals, torn between duty to loved ones and reverence for the sacred. His reluctance, his fear before the growing storms, shows the conscience of humanity, aware that every gift from the divine carries responsibility. Thus, the tale is a ritual drama, echoing ancient initiation. The fisherman calls to the sea as if invoking a deity. The wife's demands resemble the escalating petitions of ancient rulers who offered sacrifice after sacrifice for greater dominion. And the final collapse is not punishment alone but restoration, the rebalancing of the cosmos after mortal pride has gone too far. The story is not only about losing a cottage or a palace, it is about the eternal truth that everything taken from the divine without gratitude must, in the end, be returned. The story of the fisherman and his wife is remembered today as a warning for children. Be content with what you have, or risk losing it all. But its roots reveal something far deeper. Behind the moral fable lies a tale of humanity's encounter with the sacred. It is the record of a fisherman who touches the divine and of a wife who represents the insatiable voice of human ambition. It is a drama where the sea becomes the stage of creation itself, where wishes are not simply personal desires but transgressions against cosmic order. Through history, this tale has shifted from satire to morality tale, from political commentary to bedtime story. Yet it has always carried with it the echo of something ancient, something that may stretch back thousands of years to the first sailors who feared and revered the sea. Archaeological evidence shows that the core pattern of the tale has traveled across continents. Embedded in myths from Mesopotamia to Japan, its symbols point to universal truths: the sacred fish as divine wisdom, the sea as the threshold of the unknown, the insatiable petitioner as humanity itself. To hear this story is to glimpse the ongoing struggle between reverence and greed, between balance and excess. It warns us not just about personal greed, but about civilizations that overreach, rulers who claim divine power, and empires that fall into ruin. The fisherman's tale is no children's diversion. It is an ancient myth of hubris and consequence, whispered through waves, carried in stories, and preserved as a relic of the human soul's encounter with the mysteries of the deep.